Picture this, you're scrolling your news feed and see a headline, International Debate Championship sees unlikely finalists. You click, it's the usual suspects, Oxford, Harvard, and then, a team from the Philippines. For some it's just a fact, for others, a smirk. Stereotypes about accents and proper English bubble up. The world has a narrow idea of what good English sounds like. Mockery comes from everywhere. Westerners, and even Filipinos who've tried to sound more American or British. Some correct grammar at family dinners, laugh at Carabao English, trying to sound less like themselves. This is the world the Filipino debate team entered. They carried not just arguments, but decades of stereotypes. Every word was judged, not just for logic, but for vowels, sentence structure, and whether they fit a box made by outsiders. The headline's subtext, "Can these guys compete?" The pressure was immense. Before speaking, they were already underestimated. Other teams had confidence. Their English was the standard. The Filipino team had to prove their English, shaped by a different history, was just as valid. The stage was set for a battle of wits and perceptions. They weren't just fighting for a trophy, but against a quiet, persistent prejudice. Every time they spoke, they challenged the world's expectations. They knew the world wasn't watching to see them win, but to see if they'd fail. But they were ready to show that their voice mattered. This wasn't just a debate, it was a statement. The world was about to see what they could do, and nothing would ever be the same. Why do Filipinos speak English? It's not random, it's history. In 1898, after the Spanish-American War, the US took over the Philippines. The Americans brought thousands of teachers, the Thomasites, to set up schools, all in English. English became the language of government, business, and aspiration. If you wanted to succeed, you learned English. But the Philippines has over 170 languages, English mixed with local tongues, creating Taglish and a unique Filipino English. It's not wrong, it's customized, shaped by a complex multilingual culture. Mocking the Filipino accent isn't just about language, it's mocking a history of colonialism and resilience. English was imposed, then embraced, then transformed. Filipino English carries echoes of American classrooms, local dialects, and a spirit of adaptation. It's not broken, it's a living testament to survival. When people laugh at the accent, they ignore the story behind it. Filipino English is a badge of history, not a flaw. It's a language made their own. That's the real difference. And it's something to be proud of. Competition day. The university hall buzzed with tension. UK teams spoke in crisp accents. Americans were loud and confident. The Filipino team was quieter, feeling the skeptical glances. When Oxford was announced, the crowd murmured with respect. Yale got impressed whispers. University of the Philippines. Polite but tepid applause. They were seen as a novelty, not a threat. The team felt underestimated, overhearing comments about their strong accent. In elite debate, the right accent is a shortcut to credibility. The Filipino team didn't have that. They had to earn respect word by word, but being the underdog gave them fuel, not arrogance but determination. They huddled, not with fear, but resolve. Their research was solid, their perspective unique. The doubt in the room was a challenge. Show us what you've got. They were ready to answer. The world's low expectations would become their greatest weapon. They weren't just there to participate, they were there to prove they belong. Every glance, every whisper, only made them stronger. They were about to change minds. The real competition was just beginning, and they were ready for it. The room didn't know what was coming, but the Filipino team did. The first debate began, global economic policy. The Australian team's speaker was smooth, polished, the model of a proper debater. Judges nodded, the audience was captivated. Then, Leah from the Filipino team took the podium. Her English was clear, her logic sound, but her accent was distinctly Filipino. She pronounced three as tree, used expressive gestures. In the middle of a serious point, a few people snickered. It wasn't loud, but Leah heard it. She paused, hurt flickering in her eyes, but she didn't flinch. She leaned in and said, "Some may find the way I speak different, but the truth I am speaking is the same for everyone, no matter the accent." The hall went silent. The snickering stopped. Leah refused to let mockery define her. She continued, now with more fire. Her points were sharper, her delivery more passionate. She wasn't just reciting facts, she was telling a story. She made economic policy real, connecting it to lives like hers. The audience wasn't laughing anymore, they were listening. Leah turned a moment of ridicule into a moment of power. She showed that authenticity is stronger than mockery. Her accent became her strength. The Filipino team's message was clear: judge us by our ideas, not our accents. The energy in the room shifted. The debate was no longer about language, it was about truth, and Leah had everyone's attention. The game had changed. As rounds went on, a pattern emerged. Native-speaking teams were brilliant, masters of rhetoric, but often cold and impersonal. The Filipino team brought logic and research, but also heart. They told stories about neighbors, communities, real people affected by policies. Marco, their second speaker, described typhoons and resilience, making climate change real. Their Filipino English wasn't a weakness, it was the voice of authenticity. The melodic quality, the occasional Tagalog phrase, made them genuine. They weren't trying to be someone else, they were themselves. The audience and judges leaned in, craving connection. The Filipino team wove logic and emotion together. They didn't just win arguments, they won people over. They reminded everyone, debate isn't just about being right, it's about connecting and persuading. Their stories made statistics human, their voices made the abstract real, and that was their secret weapon. The native English-speaking teams were flawless, perfect grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation. Their arguments were like classical music, technically perfect, but sometimes lacking soul. The Filipino team was a powerful folk song, imperfect, but deeply moving. Communication isn't just about words but meaning. A perfectly pronounced sentence can leave an audience cold. A passionate argument, even with an accent, can change minds. In the semifinals, the British team gave a brilliant, academic case for preserving culture in museums. The Filipino speaker countered, "My opponent talks about preserving culture inside glass boxes. In my country, we preserve our culture by living it." She spoke of songs, recipes, language, and love. The room shifted. The British team was flawless, the Filipino team was profound. Their unique way of speaking became their strength. It carried their identity, culture, and humanity. Their message wasn't just heard, it was felt. They proved that passion and authenticity beat perfection. Their English was the instrument of their story, and that story was unforgettable. The debate was no longer about language, it was about meaning, and the Filipino team owned it. The final round. The hall was electric. Cameras rolling. The Filipino team faced last year's champions from the US. The ultimate test. It was more than a debate: standard English versus the variant, established power versus rising voice. The topic: does globalism do more harm than good? The American team dazzled with data and confidence, painting globalization as progress. Then Leah took the stage for the Filipino team. She didn't start with stats, she started with a question. Who does this globalism truly serve? She reframed the narrative, speaking of farmers losing to imports, call center workers losing pieces of themselves. She wasn't just debating, she was bearing witness. Her English, with its Filipino cadence, was the sound of authenticity. She showed the hidden costs, the human toll. Her argument was a masterclass in turning global issues into human stories. The room was transfixed. She wasn't just making points, she was making people feel. And no one could look away. The final rebuttals ended. The hall was silent. Judges weighed not just arguments, but worldviews, polished data versus passionate stories. The head judge stood, praised both teams, then said, "Debate is about persuasion. The most powerful tool is connection." He turned to the Filipino team. "You shared your world with us. You used your unique voice as a bridge, not a barrier." Then, the announcement, "The champions are the University of the Philippines." The room erupted. The Filipino team hugged, tears streaming. The whispers and smirks were silenced. The people who laughed now gave a standing ovation. Other teams congratulated them with genuine respect. In that moment, they weren't the team with the accent. They were champions. They won by sounding like themselves. What the world saw as a weakness became their strength. Their victory was deafening. They proved that authenticity wins. The world saw them and heard them, at last. Their story became legend. The debate was over, but the message remained, and it echoed far beyond the hall. What's the lesson? It's not about one country being better, it's about what it means to communicate. We're taught there's a right way to speak English, usually London or LA. Anything else is seen as less. This story shatters that idea. Language isn't a competition, it's a tool, a bridge. The Filipino team won because they mastered connection. Their victory is a reminder. Strength lies in diversity, including accents. Your voice is valid. Your story matters. Don't try to sound like someone else. The world needs your original voice. Whether Filipino, Nigerian, Indian, or Texan, that's your power. Don't let anyone mock you into silence. Sometimes, the most different voice is the one the world needs most. Speak with pride. The world is listening.